All
Okay,
right, this is, what are we on, Brandon? Chapter what?
we're on chapter 3 now.
Chapter 3. Okay, this is bonus content for Always Pick Glass with my man, Brandon Foster, over in, is it Bella what?
Ballymena.
Bellamina Highlands.
Yeah.
Brandon has graciously been hired to read the book for all you young people. So, Brandon, take it away. We have to do this en route because that's how things happen sometimes. So, fire away on chapter 3.
Yeah, so last time we left off with me asking you about your about Jean, your sister. And we've got 7 more questions left, just telling you.
Okay.
Here we go, chapter 3, very first question. Do you think there's a reason behind no one really telling you much about your dad's health?
Yeah, I think, I mean, I alluded to in the book being 5 or 7 and holding up a sign, welcome home, Dad, for the hospital. He was only 41.
Yeah.
I knew, you just, you're 13, 14, you get it. You can't hide it from kids forever, right? But did I know how sick he was? No. I knew he was unhealthy. I know he drank too much. I know the doctors told him not to eat the garbage he ate, but that was the time. He worked hard, played hard, liked his bacon and sausage, I could have killed him. Yeah. Well, yeah, my father liked like smoked shoulder and shit, which I can't stand. But Sunday dinner. So, I don't. My mother alluded to the fact that he almost died when he wasn't supposed to live to 25, or I don't know what that meant. But at
I think it was 17. You said in the book, he said he wasn't supposed to live to the age of 17.
Something to that. I don't know. My mother alluded to that. Who knows? And back then, people weren't as transparent, with stuff as they are today because it's unacceptable. It's or acceptance, and people just people have a hard time with that. It's like unfortunately, the world with mental illness, right? If you say, "Oh, I've got cancer," people show up at your doorstep with food. You say mental illness, depression. Oh, whoa, whoa, whoa! They play hands off. Just like when I teach domestic violence classes, I tell the women, you get in trouble, yell fire, not rape. That's coming from law enforcement officers because nobody wants to get involved if you yell rape, fire. Everybody's like, what's that? So I think it alludes to the question or why, my mother made the decision not to tell me, he smoked cigars, he had a beer in his hand every night. It doesn't mean he was a bad person. That was just his lifestyle. It's a lifestyle.
Yeah. You talk about how you and your mother would hide the cigars in the bottom of the trash can and put coffee grains over it,
My father, he couldn't. Kevin, where's my cigars? I don't know, Dad. Even at 7. I don't know, Dad. No idea. I to the store. I'm like, I don't know. Forgot to get them. Even at 7, I was a little shit.
Well, wasn't everyone at one point? I mean.
Oh, I knew inherently smoking was bad for you. Before anybody came, I just knew it. Just knew it. He liked his El Producto cigars. Oh, cheapest friggin' cigar on the planet. And he liked his, his Schlitz beer. Ugh.
Schlitz? Never heard of that.
It's garbage. It's garbage. It's like one step below like Miller Lite, which is more garbage. But that was my dad. But he had a great. I always loved some of the sayings he came up with. He would never go above his means spending. He used to say, "Kevy," there's only 2 people ever called me Kevy, only ever allowed. My uncle who got me into martial arts and my father. The only 2 people. And he said to me, "You can't get," one of his famous sayings, it's in the book somewhere, "You can't get a champagne taste on a beer bottle."
All right, okay.
So in other words, you can't live above your means. You You can't live above. Why are you going to go buy the the $80,000 car when you're making 70 grand a year? It doesn't work. For what? For show? Go ahead. Next question.
Yeah. So whenever you speak to people about your program, Burn with Kearns, do you wish to achieve that level of respect your dad had at his work?
I think it's an interesting question. As you know, I try to be extremely humble. Your dad's known me for what, almost 15 years now. I try to be extremely humble with the whole thing, and it's not easy to kind of not get absorbed, self-absorbed on that stuff. I trained 15 UFC fighters. I've walked out to the cage. I've done a lot in my career in 32 years. People say, well, some people have said you have a chip on your shoulder. I'm like, I do. When it comes to martial arts, fitness, and yoga and wellness, stuff like that, yeah, I do. Because I've got 3 decades. I've got my degree and I have 3 decades in the field. I'm always a white belt, always. But I have 3 decades in the field. So if I smell baloney, snake oil, I'm going to call you out. If it's and now in today's age, you can't prove anything. So do I have that level of respect? Yeah, it was interesting. I was on Pressing the Limits back in November. John Bruni, John Brookfield, and Fairfax Hackley. John Bruni and John Brookfield have multiple records in Guinness Book of World Records for feats of strength. And first 5 seconds in the interview, Coach Kearns, wouldn't call me Kevin. Coach Kearns, anybody who says the name Kevin Kearns, who you are, I'm like, here's a guy like, I don't know how many Guinness Book of World Records, and he's saying that to me. It's just like, okay, it's gratifying. At the end of the day, you got to keep your feet on the ground, and it can escape you. Kenny was famous for saying, "Don't believe the hype, Kenny Florian, and don't believe your own hype." So you gotta kind of temper that. And I've seen it. Your father has too. I've seen it in martial arts. I've seen it in business. I've seen it in yoga. I've seen it in fitness. They bow down. It's like, or people will call me like, "Oh, you're a guru." I'm like, no, man, don't call me a guru. I don't believe in that word. I just don't. You're the whole point of my hashtag, always a white belt, is just that. You're always learning. When I got my first black belt in 1983, Master Charlie Machera, Paul Taylor sat down with me and said, "Congratulations, you did it in 4 years, and you're always a white belt." I'm like, what? They're like, it's just the beginning. And now it's been 42 years in and out,
Yeah, I've heard my dad talk a lot about always learning, especially when it comes to martial arts. And even my grandparents, they always talk about you always learn something every day.
Every day. If you can take that, Brandon, if you can take that with life, martial arts is a good metaphor for life, and you take that mindset. I started bodybuilding as a teenager, got into it until 98, got exposed to functional strength training. I switched everything over. 12 years ago, my ex-wife got me into yoga. I used to call it yogurt. Now I go 3 times a week at least. It's been 12 years now. I got exposed to Qigong through Sifu Kim Masaya, which I was like, what's this? And, so I think, does that cover your question? So I think I do have that level of respect. I think Burn with Kearns, the name carries some weight, especially in the world of MMA and fitness, and especially MMA, fitness, and martial arts, definitely.
Yeah, me and my dad, I was just training with my dad literally, 20 minutes ago? About 2 hours. Yeah, we were doing some judo, actually. Next question. It's also pretty clear that that your father cared about other people's safety, and he wasn't just doing his job because that was his job. That's what he had to do. He genuinely cared about people.
Yeah, and I got that from my dad and my mom. They, there's a great book, I Told Your Father. Well, one of my requirements for master coach in our system is several. It's a 6-month process. I'm very strict on it. There's no real test. Your test is life, and you're assigned to multiple books and and audiobooks and everything else. And one of the first books that I completely got absorbed, I must have read it at least 25 times, was Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence Other People. And his 3 fundamentals are simple. Don't criticize, condemn, or complain. Show honest, sincere appreciation. And this is the big one. Be genuinely interested in people. My dad, literally cared about people. He talks about the Italian guy with the cannoli and the kids running around. I talk about that in the book. He's like, Tony, you got to get this. Come on, I'm going to give you another couple days, but get this. I'm trying. My dad's name, everybody called my dad Jackie. Jackie, I'm trying on the job. Jackie, I'm trying, Jackie. Just give me a couple. I'm going to give you one more day. He'd say, and it was always like, 2 days. He would come back. And he was just like that. That was just, that was just the person he was, and my mom too. My mom would be your best friend in 5 seconds. I'm at her complex, and she's in her 80s, and she's on the 4th floor. We're coming down. This woman has a Dunkin' Donuts coffee. I forget how old the woman was. She was probably my age. Oh, you like Dunkin' Donuts coffee? Oh, I do. She just strikes up a conversation with anybody, and that was just. My first boss told me, "You're excellent." When I did my internship at 24 for Joe and Jimmy, one-to-one personal training, he goes, your organizational skills need work, which they did. Your rapport, I've never seen anybody would be able to establish rapport as fast as you do. I've never seen it, and that's a gift. It's a gift.
No, that's just something that I picked up while reading that little section about your dad talking to your neighbor when he was building the porch, and that's just something that I thought. Oh, whenever it was clear that he genuinely cared about him and his kids' safety, instead of just doing it because, well, that's what he was being. That's his job. That's just what he does.
My dad took his job serious, very serious.
Yeah. That's we're on chapter 4 now. Could you tell me more about your paperboy job? Why did you do it? Because you said you signed up for it yourself. Were you saving up for something, or was this just?
Well, what happened is it was kind of like a rite of passage, right? Tony or whoever it was got a paper route, and he started making money. We didn't have a lot of money. My family was the type. Tony lost a tooth, he got $1, I got $0.25, because that's what we could afford. They were the family that his father would get a new Cadillac every few years. He was an iron worker, made good money. My father, we were kind of like the lower, mid to lower income in the neighborhood. You made it in our neighborhood when you got a 1 family or a 2 family instead of a 3, because your other apartments paid the rent. So, my dad wanted me to get a job. I was 12, and he encouraged me. And then, it was kind of like what's kind of a line in the sand. Oh, you got a paper route? I'm getting a paper route. And the funny part was, I got one that was really close to the house, a block or 2 away. Didn't pay me enough money. I called the guy. I literally called the guy up. My mother, nobody did it for me. I called the guy up. I go, I'm not making enough money in this route. It's too small. I want a bigger route. I took one 6 blocks further away on the Chelsea line. Literally, I was delivering newspapers right over the Chelsea line, which after a certain time of night, you didn't go into Chelsea because it wasn't really safe. And I learned customer service. I mean, I had that paper route from the age of 12 to almost 16.
You were already a businessman at the age of 12.
You know what it was? It was, I saw my parents struggle with money, and my mother took a part-time job once I went to school full-time, and she worked. I go off to school, and our school was right across the street, and she was the secretary for the truant's office, so I could never skip school. So she did that to help out, and we didn't have a lot of money, but there was a lot of love in the house, and my parents did what they could. They absolutely did what they could. They took us on vacations when they could, but we didn't go any place extravagant. We couldn't afford it, but extravagant to us was going to the Lamassi's house in Danvers for the day because they had an above ground pool. Because how is it? Oh, a pool? We're all set now. We're all set.
Yeah. Okay. Next question. You seem very close to your Aunt D. I just
Close to what?
your Aunt D. She.
Oh, yeah, absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
Auntie, I was very fortunate to have. My mother had seven siblings. My father had 4, so we had
Wow.
31 first cousins. One aunt had 11 kids, which was great because anytime you went to the LeClaire's house, you always had somebody to play with, always. And they were like rough and tumble bikies. It was a crazy house. It was phenomenal. It was, yeah. My cousin Peter was he was a Hell's Angel. A couple of them were Hell's Angels. It was a scene, and they had a big piece of property, and you were always getting in trouble, always getting in trouble. And Uncle Henry, I had a lot of aunts and uncles, but truly, Auntie D and Uncle Henry are like second parents to me. God rest their soul. Uncle Henry, if I don't know if we've gotten that far, but when the bullying got worse after my father passed, he talked me into taking karate, and he paid for part of it because we couldn't afford it. And he thought I'd stay for a year, get some belts, beat up the bullies and be done. I stayed for 4 years, and then I kept going. And he always jokes around. It costed me a fortune, but I love it.
Okay, and can you describe how the death of your father affected you at such an early age?
Oh, that's a deep question. I don't even know if you can put it into words. It was the only thing that could describe it is when. So you're already at the part where with Ray Donnie actually sits down with me in the toy box, right?
Yeah, your aunt sits down with you and she takes you shopping to get a new suit. Just finished. That's just chapter 4. Yeah.
Yeah. So you got to the part where I came home from the paper route the morning of. Ray Donnie, my father's best friend, was the plumber, and I thought he was joking.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
It was like getting hit in the face with a shovel. People describe shock. I don't even know if I can put it into words. I was like, and you just can't comprehend it. You're at like, I don't know what words you can. Devastating, debilitating, crushing. Your world just, and this is why I believe in the Bushido way, life in every breath. Your world just changed on a dime, gone. Mm-hmm. What? I just saw him last week. So
crazy. It's crazy. Yeah.
Life is precious. Life is all. That's why I push people, and I'll allude to my second book. Going through the depression, everything was tough too. So in a sense, I think at that age, I learned what depression was about. Was I depressed? Yeah, and then my so-called friends came to the funeral and everything, but a couple of weeks later, they were back to this. They were even worse after that. And I don't know if you've gotten to the part where that first summer. That he died in February 19th. And that first summer was the loneliest summer of my life. I'm like, the only thing I can describe it is you're in the middle of the woods and you don't know where you're going. You don't know which direction to go, left, right, behind. You're completely lost. You have no compass, you have nothing and no direction. And everything in your life is completely changed for good, and you can't fix it. I even went through, it was interesting at 12, you're 12, 13, 14, you're interested in girls. And then week before I'm talking to my dad about girls and this, that, the other thing. And, and then he dies. And I'm like, oh, it's because I didn't bring him a Valentine's Day card. You stop blaming yourself. And you're like, and, my mother, God rest her soul, I kept going to her. And I mean, in the summer, she would get up, go to work. I get up, eat breakfast, watch TV, wait a little bit, and then I would walk like 2 or 3 miles to her office. She'd give me some money. I go down to Puppuccino's, get a slice of pizza, French fries. I come home with her at 2. That was my day, Monday through Friday. And then eventually she had to push me away. So she made me independent, which I thank her for. But at the same token, over time, she didn't want me to be independent. She wanted it back. It's like, no, I can't do that. So, and that's where, as I alluded to, that's where my temper started. I remember, I think I alluded to in the book, I was saying to Auntie, I just want to punch something. And that was it. I just, and then all the bullying that went on, all the stuff that went on. And I could feel the level of anger. And it was a heat that you couldn't even put into words. It wasn't like a hot summer day. It was like this slow consuming burn that just didn't stop. That was always there. It's a hole in your heart. It's a hole in your heart. Death is never easy. And anybody says, well, time heals all wounds, blah, blah, blah. That's true to a certain degree. And you never get over a death of any family member, animal, whatever it is. You learn to live with it. It's unfortunate that it is a life lesson, because life is precious. Life is, it can change. It can change in an instant. I mean, I just talked to somebody that's my age, that's in great shape. He had a fatty liver, and he wasn't paying attention to his lifestyle. He's 54, and he's on the transplant list for a liver at 54. And he's going to get put on his neck. And I'm like, I haven't talked to him in like a year. I'm like, you're kidding me, right? You're kidding me. He's like, no, man. He's like, and he's divorced now, but his wife is his best friend. And I'm like, wow, man. I'm like,
yeah, no.
You just don't know. And there's a great movie for you young kids that you should watch. It's an 80s movie from Matthew Broderick. Is it Matthew Broderick? I'm trying to remember. Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And it's the best line in that whole movie is Ferris Bueller says, life moves pretty fast. If you don't stop and look around, it's going to pass you by.
Something like that before.
So you take a page from Dr. Wayne Dyer, one of my biggest people I followed. And that page is, and this might be too deep for kids, but it's something to think about. We're so busy being a human doing versus a human being.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to think about this now.
Well, just think about it, right? My buddy Tim said to me, Tim Goodwin, who I've known for like 15 years, when COVID hit, when you look at COVID, you can take a different page from COVID, like, oh, it's awful, it's this. Yes. So life is a dichotomy, okay? You have the sun rises, the sun sets, right? Sunrise, are there levels of gray? Sure. But the sunrise to sunset, you can count on that. So there's always a dichotomy, two sides. COVID was awful, yes. And what did it teach us? What did we get out of it? Like Tim said to me, he goes, over the summer, he's like, man, I've spent more time in nature. I'm listening to the birds, and you see people, like I had a client, very, very wealthy family, 30 years old, and he kind of got it. He's like, yeah, people go to concerts and they're too busy holding up their phones, or they're out to dinner, they're taking pictures already. It's like, why does that matter? What happened to Polaroid? Click, oh, we got the picture, right? So I think there's something lost. Moments matter, moments matter. They really do. And a photo is to capture a moment, not just for posting. That's all great. It's nice. One of the best features of Facebook, which I can't stand Facebook sometimes, is the memories. I'm like, oh man, and Pete, your father knows I do it every day. Oh, 9 years ago, 10. I'm like, wow, I forgot. I'm like, I was there. I forgot about that. So, and everything has energy, and even photos have energy. Photos. I mean, my kids are in my car. That's my screensaver. I got my dad's ring on. There's energy in that. I've had it on since I was 12. So, everything has energy in it. And I think COVID and things like that teach us that, okay, what's really important? What's really important? There's a great quote from, not to get off track, from Rumi, the ancient Danish theologian. This is from like 900 or 1200 AD. And this is going to be deep, but it's a very good quote. After all this time, the sun never says to the earth, you owe me. Think what can be done with a love like that.
I don't understand that. Oh, I've only started doing English literature.
Okay, well, let's think about that. After all this time, the sun never says to the earth. Think about what the sun does for the earth. It warms it. It does all these things for it. The earth would, let's face facts, the earth, this planet wouldn't be feasible without a sun, right? No planet is.
Yeah.
Okay. So after all this time, the earth, the sun doesn't say, hey, you owe me.
I get it now.
It's unconditional. It comes without conditions. The sun just does it because it wants to. Like people say to me, you didn't have to do that. I don't have to do anything. I want it to.
Yeah.
It's not an ulterior motive. I wanted to. You know, when I wrote this book, you know, the first ghostwriter took $4,000 of my money, took notes of my first chapter, disappeared. I was completely disenfranchised with the whole thing. Didn't want to do it. Then a year went by. I hired a fulfillment company for my DVDs. And the guy said, Richard Shelby, great guy, passed away, cancer. He said, do you need anything else? I could use a ghostwriter. Kit Birmingham calls me. She gets me on the phone and she tells me, this is what she tells me. She goes, I read your passion and what you wanted to do. I got to call this guy. She didn't have time. She said, no, that $4,000, that should have been what it cost to write the book. I said, all right. And she says, what do you want to do? I said, I want to help some people. She's like, good, because if you said you wanted to make $1 million writing this book, I would have told you you're crazy. Doesn't mean it can't happen, but I told you you're crazy. I said, Kit, if I get one kid to turn his life around, adult, whatever it is, and think they're not worthless like I thought I was, and know that they can do it, know that it doesn't matter where you come from, what you've been through, no matter how many times you've been knocked down, you keep going forward and you don't stop. You don't let anybody weigh you down. You don't care what anybody says. You keep moving forward. I don't care what, if you're not a 4, I'm not a 4.0, I'm a 2.895. I'm a low B, right? You keep going. She says, you know what? She goes, we're going to do it. I go, if you and I are on Oprah and this book goes global, which I hope it does, makes into a movie, the whole 9 yards, great. That's icing on the cake. I got 2 daughters I got to send to college. She just laughed at me. Now, the funny part about it is she took no money for 6 months, 0. Because she got invested. She didn't have to do that.
Oh.
That's additional. And she's never met me once.
Wow.
She knows more about me than anybody. And what she did is every Monday night, she would interview me for an hour. Because the book, as you know, plays like a movie. She goes, I want to be sitting in your theater with you. I want you to come out of the movie and tell me what's going on. And everybody tells me, they're like, dude, this plays like a movie. Plays like a movie.
Yeah, I think seeing that book as a movie would be great.
Hopefully we'll get that. I've been trying for a little while, and it is the true Karate Kid story. Somebody told me, I'm like, well, if you ended up as the fighter, that would be a better story. That'd be more Hollywood. I'm like, that's bullshit. That's baloney. It's bull.
It doesn't have to be Hollywood to be a good movie, you know.
Why can't it be? I was bullied, blah blah blah. And then I became the strength coach of 15 UFC fighters. Why isn't that a good story? Right? Yeah. Why isn't it a good story that I turned a hobby into a lifestyle, into a career, and a 32-year business? Why not? Global. Why can't that? What's wrong with that story? Look at Rudy. Rudy never made it as a football player, right? He played for Notre Dame. He dressed one game. That was a good story. You ever see that movie?
No, never seen it.
Go watch Rudy. I forget his name. He's a good actor. Small kid, the whole 9 yards, but he had all heart. And all he wanted to do is play for Notre Dame. His grades sucked, blah, blah, blah. He got on Notre Dame. He got on the practice team. That was it. He got on the practice team. That's all he got. And then the players, he was a small kid, the players felt so good about him that his father loved Notre Dame, and his father came to the game. He's like, Coach, just let me dress for one game. Just let me dress for one game. All the players came out. The coach was on the fence and gave their jerseys for Rudy. It's a great scene. He said, Coach, this is for Rudy. This is for Rudy. Let him play. Let him play. Let him play.
I think I actually have seen that movie. Was that a young kid, like a really young kid?
not young, but he was probably teenager. He played a teenager. I forget his name.
I have seen that movie.
Sean something or other was his name.
Yeah, I think it was on Netflix at one point, and I watched it with my mom and dad. Yeah.
I mean, those are the movies you guys should be watching. Those Cinderella Man, about James Braddock, Rocky, what else? Southpaw, all those movies. The Fighter. I mean, those are all movies about going forward. You've got Master and Commander. You've got even let's go back. Look at G.I. Jane. G.I. Jane was cutting edge. I applaud Demi Moore for doing that. They wanted to give her substandards. Well, you're a woman, you have to use the box. And he's like, no, you treat me the same. You treat me the same. You don't give me, you want to give me a hand, that's fine. And I got to go in 2 seconds. The best thing one of my professors ever said to me, Dr. David Thomas, when I graduated, and I wasn't the best student. The textbook stuff, phenomenal. Writing, which is kind of funny. I've written 300 articles at least. I'm writing my second book, and I've written this book. So it's funny that I was lousy at writing. And he said to me, having a beer in his office, when I'm 24, I just graduated. He says, "I'm proud of you." I'm like, "What, Dave?" Dr. Dave. I go, "What?" He's like, "It's not always the people that get 4.0s that do well in life. It's the ones that have to struggle to get a B like you, that know that they have to grind it out and work their asses off." Never forgot that. Never. Yeah. That's why this right here, Vice President of Pegasystems, multi-billion-dollar company, gave that to me 6 years ago. He's like, "Where you putting that, coach? In your desk?" My car is my desk. That's so I can see that every day.
Yeah,
mindset.
Yeah.
Ali, get knocked down 7 times, get up 8. Yeah. Any other questions, my friend?
There's just one left.
Sure. Hit me up.
What helped you get through it, as your father's death?
My family, martial arts, conditioning, strength training, my friends, Lionel, Craig, people like that it's kind of like our 4S formula, right? With anti-bullying: speak up, stand up, stay together, self-defense. Get with like-minded people like Bobby Carboni, who I haven't seen in years, Tommy Spellman. They were already like high-level belts in United Studios of Self-Defense, and they took me under their wing. My teacher, Sensei Paul Taylor, Master Charlie Matera. I saw Master Charlie Matera in 2009 when I was at a fight for Florian. Haven't seen him since I was 18 years old. He walked in, told me exactly who I hung out with, told me exactly when I got my black belt. He said, "You are a United Studios success story." I go, "He's right. He's right." The martial arts gave me something. It fed, and I wrote something about this before, it fed the lion. I was angry, I was sad. Anger and sadness kind of go hand in hand. And I needed something. I needed something to feed that wolf. And that was it. That was it.
Yeah.
That was, and that's how I got through it. You know what? There's a great saying from Jackie Bonwell, who's one of my yoga mentors. And this has got me through a lot of things in my recent life. You are stronger than you think you are. Courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is doing what you have to do in the face of fear.
Yeah, I definitely understand that one. I'm starting to get the hang of this. Yeah.
It's a lot to absorb for 12, but it's you know what? We all don't want to do what we have to do sometimes, and sometimes you just got to do it. You got to show up. You got to, everything. Look, first time riding a bike, scary. First time doing anything, scary. If you think about a 2-year-old, can you tell me how many times that you fell to walk when you were 2?
No, I cannot tell you.
But think about that, right? Think about that, Brandon. It's just in you, that it's in your DNA that you gotta do it. I gotta do it. I gotta feed myself. And if you took that mentality at life every day, I have to. It's like Anthony Robbins says, you don't have to, you must. I must.
Yeah, that's kind of like I do a lot of skateboarding, and I constantly, especially at the start, I constantly fell, and it hurt. Like skateboards are dangerous. You know, you're
Yeah.
going down at like a very high speed, and you're going down a hill. You hit one like tiny little rock, and you go flying. Like you can get like one of my friends fell straight face on their bike, big scuffed their face here. It hurt. She had to get new braces. But yeah,
Look,
it's dangerous thing.
life is about taking chances, right? Okay. This is life. I'm going to sum it up for you real simple. And it's going to take a little bit to digest. You got to put your parachute on, but then you got to jump. You don't know you don't know when the parachute's going to open. And I guarantee you're going to get hit by you're going to be jumping in between like a mountain or caves. You're going to get hit in them sides. You're going to get, as Billy Osberg said, you're going to get cut up. You're going to get beat up a little bit on the way down. And I can guarantee you, your parachute's going to open. You just have to jump.
You have to jump. You have to do it.
We got to take. Look, everybody knows. Cars are dangerous, right? Cars are dangerous. Cars are dangerous, right? Cars are dangerous. Okay, if you don't want to get in an accident, stay home. But we still drive.
Everyone says it. Yeah.
All right, man. So you are on chapter 4. You have a number to go, don't you?
Yeah, I believe there's 12 chapters.
Okay, well, better get cracking. You got to the 5th. Oh, look, kitty cat. Hey, cat. What's up?
Aww.
All right, I gotta go train clients. Let's reconvene. All right, keep going, my friend.
Bye, Kevin.
All right, cheers. Thank you.